this is Val Harrison, the Practically Speaking Mom. Today, in episode 83, we're looking at 3 issues as we finish up a conversation with one of my grown daughters, Becca Hammond, mom to 2 little boys and a baby girl on the way. The first issue, the complex topic of disciplining our kids. Secondly, mom guilt when we take mom breaks. And third, mom health tips. That's where we're at on the podcast today. Let's get started. As we continue our conversation today with Becca, we pick up at a spot where we are discussing the complex issue of disciplining a child. Now, discipline means something different in every home. It's different with every child, in fact, and, finding what's effective, and it's different at every age. What is best for a 1-year-old is not what's best for a 3-year-old. What's best with a 3-year-old is not what's best for a 10-year-old or a teenager. Discipline is a tricky subject because there are so many variables to consider. So there's what I would call 4 stages. The first stage is check your heart and mind, mama. Discipline must come from a heart of love and a mindset of growth. I want to impact positive growth in my kids in some basic areas: heart, soul, mind, body, and relationships. So when I'm disciplining, I want to do it from a place of love and a desire for growth in those main areas of their life. So this is a little checklist for me. If I don't have a good handle on stage 1, which is checking my heart and my mind, I should not move on to stage 2 of discipline. Here's stage 2. Check your mouth and your gumption. What in the world am I talking about? Well, first of all, discipline must come from a parent who speaks from their mouth calm, clear, concise, and consistent with your words. It can't be one set of rules one day and then tomorrow you're tired and so the rules have changed. You got to be consistent. And if we're not calm, well, they don't hear the message because all they hear is whatever emotions that are being created in them from how emotional mom is being. So you've got to be calm, clear, concise, consistent in your words. That's what you want to do with your mouth. What is gumption? Because I said that stage 2 is about our mouth and gumption. Well, gumption is that part of you that moves you to action. So you don't want to set a rule or boundary if you don't have the gumption to follow through with that. You don't want to set something in place and say, this is important for our family, that this is the rule. But then you don't have the gumption to follow through and be consistent with that rule. So stage 2 of parenting discipline is I want to check my mouth and my gumption. If I'm not solid on this, then I shouldn't move on to the next step. So step 3 of discipline is root parenting. That means I'm digging below the surface and I'm trying to identify what's going on in their heart and in their mind. What are they thinking that is making them behave this way? How is their character? These are the things that I am evaluating. I am doing root parenting as I discipline. Now, there's a whole podcast on that. In fact, there's a whole podcast on stage 2 on your mouth and being consistent. And then there's a whole podcast on stage 3, root parenting. In fact, the next aspect to root parenting is digging deeper in root parenting. So I have a couple podcasts on that. And then step 4, now we're ready for complex issues and complex discipline with our kids. And we shouldn't hit stage 4. We shouldn't do the stuff there until we have done stage 1, making sure that we're disciplining from a place of love and a mindset of growth. Then stage 2, I'm repeating this for you just to help it really go in your mind, is about our mouth and our gumption. The gumption to take action on the rules, the boundaries, the standards that we have put in place. And 3 is the root parenting aspect. And 4 is complex discipline. I'm going to come back on at the end of this podcast and tell you how to get more with all 4 of those stages. And also, this would definitely be a week to read my blog post that goes along with this. Okay, let's jump back into our conversation with Becca, which is a lot lighter-hearted of a conversation than I just was with you. So we did the heavy work right now. Let's get into a little more fun. definitely my youngest was my most strongest willed one. I would say I had 3 that were...
I was definitely not one.
Technically, you weren't.
I thought I was the first of those 3.
No. Actually, you're not even on the list.
Cool.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in you talking, that does remind me, you saying how you and I are both very prideful. That's been something I'm kind of thankful for now. I feel like this is a good example of just God is most strong in our weaknesses. When I feel like the reason I know that about Asher, that the reason he won't make eye contact is pride, because I recognize that because I experienced that, So God has used my weakness to reveal to me how to love my child well. So I'm still struggling. I don't feel like I've figured out the right language completely like I have with Jamie. I talked about with Jamie, we learned the language to speak to his anxiety. With Asher's pride, I don't feel like we've got it totally figured out. We're still trial and erroring with it a little bit, but something that I have been learning with him is if you give him a job, he is so excited. He feels like he has a mission and he feels like he has something to accomplish and he wants to do it well and fast and he wants you to notice. And he's just very, very motivated by having a job and knowing that it's important. So something I've been trying to establish with him is Asher, God gave you such an important job. As a little boy who's growing into a young man, your job is to obey mommy and daddy, because someday you're going to be obeying God and he's going to give you big, important missions to take care of people and to love your brother and to, listing some of these things that these are the areas that mommy and daddy have you obey because these are an important job from God that he's given you. And he definitely, you can see him puff up his chest and be like, oh, I'm good at this. And, he'll start saying that. And so that has definitely been helpful for me, just learning a little bit more language. I don't feel like it totally clicks with him yet. We're still praying through that a little bit on how to do this well with him. But just watching what makes him tick and trying to use that as a reason to, inspire him as opposed to no, you will respect me instead. Because the reason I struggle with respecting authority, when I do struggle with that, is usually because I feel like that would be unsafe for me. I need to maintain a level of safety by maintaining a level of control. And so instead showing him you are actually more safe when you respect mommy and daddy, because God gave mommy and daddy the job to take care of you and to teach you. And he gave you the job to obey us and to respect us. So trying to get to the root of that, which I think I've only been able to because I have the same struggle of just seeing oh, it's a safety thing, or, there's a reason for the pride. But also using that pride for good. When you give him a job, then he can be proud of doing a good job,
Yeah.
So that's something we're figuring out with him, I think.
So I want to back up a bit on, you mentioned a few minutes ago that he doesn't give you eye contact when you discipline him. Can you give them a scenario of, not necessarily create a time when you had to discipline him, but what did you mean by discipline him? Because the audience probably, depending on how they grew up or how they parent, they might hear that and they envision something very different than what you mean.
Okay.
So can you just tell me in general, describe what you mean by that?
Well, usually whatever the offense is that they have done, whether it's minor or major, it usually starts with, Asher, can you tell me what happened here? What did you do? Why would you be in trouble for this? I try to ask questions. Kind of like you were saying, It shows me what is his mental capacity here. Does he even know what he's done? And if he does he know why that's an issue?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it always starts with a conversation, and it's in that conversation time that, I expect him to be interacting in the conversation and not just, sulking over in the corner while I'm talking at him or something.
So I used a scenario like that just today, actually, because my 11-year-old has been not putting stuff away like she knows to. And even I'll tell her and it doesn't happen. And so today I had to pull her aside. We had to sit down and I asked the question, do you recognize that you're doing this? Do you recognize that you're leaving stuff out more than you used to? And that even if I bring it up to you, you're not dealing with those items like I ask. And so that was question 1. Do you recognize you're doing this? And she was honest and said yes. And then I asked her the follow-up question to that. Why do you think that is happening? And so then her answer to that helps us to get a game plan. So the game plan may usually include how can you do it differently in the future, but sometimes it also has to include consequences, of until I start seeing that this is what you're not going to, have something that you like or whatever that, that a little bit of a sting to your happiness, a removal of a privilege, or I use, writing sentences is a common one for me, which is not the step where you're at with a 3-year-old. But when you say discipline, I know you mean for a 3-year-old, it's like you're taking his hands in your hands and getting really close proximity so that you have greater attention with him. That's when you want eye contact that he might be struggling with. So I wanted to clarify to our listeners what you meant by a time of discipline.
Okay.
That's usually how that starts. And depending on the situation and the severity of the misbehavior and how much they already knew whether they should behave that way or not. And, there's lots of factors beyond that, but I wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Well, within that too, I'm glad you mentioned like holding his hands and getting close to him because especially for boys, but really for any kid or especially for a kid who struggles with pride, showing them honor. First of all, we just want them to show others honor and respect. So they will do that best by being shown that themselves and seeing us interact with the world in that way. So in a time of discipline, I feel like it's really huge to make that a private thing. Now, if they've caused, if he has hit his brother, then yes, I will go discipline him in private and then he will come out and apologize to his brother. I feel that it does a lot of harm to a child, especially if you're loudly disciplining them in front of others. I just feel like that really hurts their self-esteem and their pride and a lot of things. So definitely make it a point, like you said, to get his hands. And if I can't go to a separate room, sometimes I'm in the middle of something with him and his brother, something where I can't leave, I do just still make it a very much like, this is me and Asher. This is not yelling from across the room or one, it just helps remove distraction because he is a very distracted kid. And so it helps him focus better. But 2, he's also able to listen to what I'm saying because he's not thinking, oh my goodness, my brother's thinking this bad thing about me now. Or, these other, my friends, because I'm on a play date, are watching me get in trouble and I'm just embarrassed and not hearing anything mom is saying,
Yeah. Well, another thing that I want to backtrack for a second on, you mentioned preschool. So this maybe would go under a triumph for you because I know this was a hard decision, but something that's really helped you. And so it's a once a week preschool time. It's like a mom's day out, but it's preschool activities at your church. So what do you want to share about that triumph? Because I do feel like that is something that's working well for you right now and being a blessing in your life.
Yeah, I was going to call that my fave.
Oh, okay.
But it could be triumph or either one. So our church has, like you said, a Mom's Day Out program. They structure it like a preschool. So they are learning Bible lessons and, manners and letters and colors and, all the things. And we debated with it back and forth, mostly because I am home with them. My biggest struggle was, again, feeling inadequate. Oh, I don't deserve that. I'm not bringing in income. I should not be spending money on getting them out of the house when I am not making money in order to be home with them in the house. The typical stay-at-home mom debate, I feel like, that a lot of moms have. That was my biggest thing. And then a little bit of, since it was at our church, I really didn't struggle with any safety aspect or anything like that because I know a lot of the teachers and I know what they're teaching and I trust them with my child's heart in that time. But I have been shocked at how life-changing, it's literally from 10 to 3 one day a week. So it's 5 hours a week. And thankfully ours is very affordable. It's about what we would be paying a sitter for that amount of time for both boys. And I feel like it's better than a sitter because it is getting them other kid interaction and, teaching them social skills in that way and stuff like that.
Well, and giving them an opportunity to obey someone else.
Yeah, just giving them outside time from the house and other playmates other than their siblings. You know, they're always together, so even on play dates, they're still with each other. So it's been good for their, like with our older one, Jamie, who is more nervous. The first week I had to pick him up early because he threw up. He was so anxious that day. I was so upset and I was really worried that it was going to be a horrible semester. But ever since then, he's done great. I think he just was really, anxious about that first day. And this is a new experience and it was kind of scary. But it's been really fun to see him like really learn how to be brave with that. And ever since then, he's just like, it was a progression. But now we are in the second semester of it and he's just thriving. He looks forward to those days. He likes to help pack his backpack the night before. And he tells me about his friends, which that's been another thing. He's very just quiet and a little bit. He likes to just stand in the corner and kind of observe. So I always make it a point, like, what friends did you meet today? And, make a point to ask relationship questions. And so it's been cool to see him really blossom and start talking about some of his friends that he's made there and just making other relationships outside of his comfort zone of his family.
Yeah. So it's helped them. And how has it helped you, do you feel like?
I have been amazed at just what going to the grocery store without my kids does for my mental health and all the things.
Yeah.
Just having literally 5 hours a week has been so good to have a little bit of downtime for myself, which that was hard. Like, am I worth having downtime to myself where I'm paying for somebody else to watch my kids? Like, I felt like I wasn't allowed to do that for whatever silly reason. It felt like that was a poor waste of our finances or my time or something like that. And for one, just having an hour of that time to myself every week has been really good, but also just to get errands done and things around the house and extra things. And pretty soon I'll have a baby at home. So it'll be nice to just have some one-on-one time with our new baby since, with the other two, I kind of got that. But now that there is two of them, I'd probably have less of that. So yeah, just a little thing like 5 hours a week has definitely been very, very big blessing.
I wish that I would have done something like that with you guys when you were little. I felt like we couldn't afford it. And yeah, it didn't seem right because we were sacrificing for me to stay home with them to oversee their environment.
Yeah.
But I wish that I would have, because whenever I would get a break from the kids, I always came back thankful to be their mom and appreciative of my life with them. And it just really impacted my perspective. So I'm glad that it's only one day a week, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm not
I agree
saying
with that.
ship them off all the time, but I'm glad that you made that decision. And just transparency to our audience, it was like about the only thing we've had an argument about in your adult life, I think. And it wasn't an argument. It was like a misunderstanding because we don't live by each other. And I found out on Instagram that you had made this decision, and I felt super left out to find out that way. So I texted, I'm like, I have a million questions about what I just saw on Instagram because we did not know.
I posted like a first day of preschool picture,
Yes.
just the typical, like they're in their backpacks in front of the playground. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, we hadn't talked in a while, so it just had not.
Yeah, it happened quickly because you guys had gone on vacation.
Well, and we had been on the waiting list. We didn't think they were going to get in, and then they had somebody drop out.
Right. So it was very sudden. And I hadn't talked to you over vacation.
Yeah.
And so I had hurt feelings like that. But you thought I was trying to control or have a...
Well, honestly, I was already, like I said, I was feeling guilty and selfish. Like, I shouldn't even be doing this in the first place. Like, all the things you said, all the lies that Satan tells to moms, whether you're working and you feel guilty for leaving your kids or whether you're home and you feel guilty for not making money for your family, he just likes to lie to us in whatever way. So anyway, I was already feeling like my mom never did this and she was doing all these amazing things, and maybe I'm just lazy that I feel that I need it, some time during the week and things like that.
I'm feeling my own set of lies of she must not want to include us and she doesn't know how we love them, or, just
Well, you
stuff.
brought up to me you were worried that I was like not okay and I was needing help.
Yes, because sickness is something you've dealt a lot with.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I forgot about that, but worried that you had been sick and felt in an act of desperation. You needed to do this. And, I want to be someone you call on when you're sick and need help. And, the enemy just tries to do this stuff. He tries to put wedges between people to make those relationships ineffective. And so mamas and daughters, if you are struggling with something like that, maybe you just need to talk it out. So we just talked it out and it was great.
Yeah.
And we're not a high drama, that's the only
Other people
time
might say we are, but I don't feel like that.
Yeah. But that kind of scenario had not happened between me and you at all in your adult life. So I think it's pretty rare, but I wanted to bring that up just because I want them to know that we're not perfect, and we have imperfect relationship between us too.
Well, and it sounds like a small thing, like what, they just went to preschool, but we both shared the different lies we were dealing with, how much a miscommunication can be hurtful just because of each person's own set of struggles, and how much just humble communication from there. You just saying like, this really hurt me and here's why, but I know that you would never intentionally hurt me, so please explain like your side of the story. Just like having gentle and honest conversation. Like, we were able to work it out and it was fine and we're all good.
Yeah. So let's cover one more thing. You mentioned at the beginning, and then it came up again just now, that you have dealt with a lot of illness. So tell us, you said you dealt with an autoimmune disease. Would you tell us the name of it real quick?
Hashimoto's, basically your immune system attacks your thyroid gland. So you understand thyroid.
Yes,
You've struggled
right, because
with that
I have
for years.
Right.
Yeah.
Thyroid
well, and it's only because
problems.
of knowing your health history that I knew to even check like, these symptoms are seeming to maybe be similar to that. Let's do some blood work and look into that. So I'm thankful to know your history.
So one thing that you've always struggled with is blood sugar levels. You're not diabetic, but definitely your blood sugar is sensitive and affects you a lot.
Yeah.
So you dealt with a struggle with that all of your life, but especially during pregnancies. So now that you've got your third pregnancy, what are you doing about that at that first trimester when everything is it's hard to do anything, or especially hard to think about food.
Yeah.
So, give us a basic tip.
So what I have found in my blood sugar, it's it stems from a hormone imbalance, which is just probably caused by the thyroid, since that really plays into your hormones and stuff. So anyway, I'm not diabetic. I've been checked and all the things, and I just get low blood sugar easily. So I have to make sure I eat high protein. So something I learned in my first pregnancy was, at the very least, keeping an eye on if the things I'm eating are close in the amount of carbs and protein. Most things are like much higher carb than protein, other than like obviously meat is not, but most other things, especially when you're pregnant. Like a couple weeks ago, all I could eat for the whole week was puffed rice cakes and almonds. Like I couldn't keep anything else down. And so that obviously was not good for my blood sugar because it was mostly carbs and stuff. But learning just to check labels for if I am feeling like my blood sugar is feeling off, or if I'm feeling nauseous or anything like that, trying to get more grams of protein than carbs, which is hard to do. So I at least tried to shoot for, like today I had a protein bar that was like 8 grams of protein and 11 grams of carbs, which is a pretty good ratio. Like that's within a few grams of each other. So I feel good about that. But honestly, the more I look at labels, the more I realize like, wow, things are just, even protein bars will say like 15 grams of protein, but like 35 grams of carbs. So really you're kind of counteracting that because of all the carbs in there. It'll still spike your blood sugar and mess things up. So that's been hugely helpful. When I am super nauseous, honestly, I struggle with it anyway, just because of some of my other health stuff, but especially in first trimester, something I have been very thankful for as a good source of protein has been collagen peptides. I get, what is the name of that brand? Vital Proteins, I think is the name of the brand. I get it from Costco. It is really healing for your body anyway. You guys have probably heard about collagen for like hair, skin, and nails being shiny and healthy, but it's really good for gut health and just overall health in your body. And it's a powder that doesn't have much flavor, so I can add it to, like, if I can only eat plain rice that day, I can add that powder and it gets in that protein, but I don't notice it because I've mixed it in and you can't tell it's in there. So that's been hugely helpful for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to wrap it up, and I'm just feeling led that Becca, would you be willing to pray for these moms? And no doubt they struggle with feelings of inadequacy as well. So could we wrap up with just you praying for them?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this community of women who love you and love their families and love the kids that you have blessed them with. And just the fact that they're listening shows how much they care about this precious gift that you have given them and the burden they feel in their heart to do their best to love their kids. And I just thank you for these moms that do invest so much time and love and effort into raising their families, and just what a special effort that is that they are putting in. And I'm just excited to see the generation that will come from that. But I just pray that you would speak truth to their hearts going on through the rest of their day or whatever it is that they're doing this week. I just pray that you would help them be aware of the lies that Satan tries to use to attack us as moms, to slow us down and to hinder us from the mission that you have given us as moms. I pray that you would help them learn the truth, to speak to those lies, that they are dearly loved by you and that you have called them to this job as moms, and that you, if they would seek you out, you will equip them with all the tools that they need. And gosh, I hear so often that God will not give us more than we can handle, and I don't agree with that. I think you do give us more than we can handle so that we will come to you and we will fall at your feet and that you would be our strength. So I just pray that these moms would just surrender that struggle of trying to fix, like moms try so hard to fix so much. And I just pray that you would give them a peace to lay that at your feet and let you be the strength in their day. And I pray that you would give them wisdom as they're interacting with their kids and in all the hard decisions they have to make and the conversations they have to have and the battles they have to choose. I just pray that you would give them wisdom and strength and peace, and to trust that you are the best father that their kids could ever have, and you are their father, and you love them, and you are filling in the gaps where these moms are, where we're all falling short. And where we mess up, you are good, and you are making good come from that because you promise that in your word. And where we are trying our best, you are doing even more than that, with that, than we ever could imagine. So I pray that you would just reveal that truth to these moms, help them to remember that, and ultimately help them to just be resting in you and your goodness and the righteousness that you have covered them in, rather than trying to work in their own strength. Father, we thank you for that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I want to thank Becca for joining me in the studio today. It is always such an honor to spend time with you here and to share you with the world. Thanks for taking the time to do that, Becca. In today's opening, I told you all about 4 phases of discipline. Phase 1, check your heart and mind. Discipline from a place of love with a goal of growth, or don't discipline at all. If you're not in a mind space and a heart space to discipline from love and growth, then don't discipline. Phase 2, check your mouth and gumption. Your mouth should be calm, clear, concise, and consistent when you discipline. And gumption is your ability to follow up on the words that came out of your mouth. follow up the first time you say them. That is keeping them in high regard. That's bringing value to your words. You can learn more about this in episode 5, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time. Then phase 3 of disciplining is practice root parenting versus just surface parenting. You have to fight the urge to be reactionary with their behavior, with their words, actions, and attitudes. Don't be reactionary to them. Instead, make the effort to root parent. You can learn about root parenting from, I did 3 episodes, 25, 26, and 28 on root parenting versus surface parenting. So you can look those up. And don't worry, I know I'm sharing a lot of podcast numbers with you right now, but if you go to my blog post on this week's topic, then I'll have all the links in there. I'll also have the links in the show notes. I also have the link to the blog post in the show notes. Okay. Phase 4 of disciplining your child is saved for complex discipline for complex issues. Phase 4, well, it's talked about in episode 4 and 12. We learned a method for what to do when your child has some deep-seated misbehavior. The title of the 2-part series is called Dealing with Lying in Your Child because all of my examples were regarding lying, but the principles work for other character issues or heart issues as well. If you want to go to my blog post again, it can help you with the links to all of these. Now, next week on the podcast, guess who is joining me? You get to meet my mother. We're going to talk together about the importance of speaking positive words of affirmation over our kids. And my mom is going to share with you this very, very cool gift that she has begun, a new tradition in our family of something she gives her grandkids. And she hasn't made it through all of them yet because she literally spends a year to 2 years on this very special project. It's something that you could also do for your child or your grandchild to give them an incredible level of blessing that would impact their faith for their entire lifetime. And I assure you that when you give this, it can be one of the greatest treasures of their life that they will seriously treasure forever. So I really am looking forward to you meeting my mom next week and learning about this treasured gift that she gives them. We will see you next week right here on the Practically Speaking Mom podcast every Monday. So yay, next week, episode 84, our Mother's Day special.